Hey, I'm Tier.
I'm Juanita,
And I'm Adriana.
and we're going to cover the topic on our experiences as young moms. Hi, my name is Juanita Ford, and I am the mom of Charles Barlow III. His name is Prince for short.
I'm the mom of Gray Austin McKenzie. My name is Adriana Hayden.
My name is Tierra Lamar. My son name is AJ, also known as Anthony.
So we get to the hospital. They confirm that yes, this was my water that broke. They admit me. I get in a room. I literally had like all my family there, and I was like, "Oh, this finna be a breeze. This is cool. I don't feel nothing." That was around like 7 o'clock. Come midnight, baby, I was sick. I thought I was dying. I was like, "Oh no!" Like that lasted for through the night, through the morning, through the next day. Around Monday evening, I was dilated enough to push. And like, I remember asking the doctor, like, how long does it take to push? Because at this point, I'm tired, boss. Like, how much longer? And she's like, oh, first time moms usually take them about 45 minutes to an hour. I was like, yeah, no, I'm not pushing for another hour. Got it here. Oh, back up a little bit. So I had got the epidural, but it didn't work. I'm telling y'all right now, it did not work. I still felt everything except for my legs. I couldn't feel my legs. And if you know, when you pushing, you kind of need your legs to use as, strength to actually push. But I couldn't feel my legs. So right before I started pushing, Ava's heart rate dropped. And they was like, oh, we got to get her into operating room to give her a C-section. And everyone knows I did not want a C-section. So I'm panicking. I'm literally like, at one point my eyes were closed and I opened my eyes and it was 20 doctors in the room. So I'm panicking at this point, like hysterically crying because I didn't want a C-section. And I had to make the decision on who was going to be in there. And I picked my mom because I knew Chandler wouldn't be able to like think on his feet if anything happened. So I needed somebody reasonable in there to do so. I get in the operating room and I'm still crying. I'm just like, I don't want this. I don't want a C-section. I'm scared. I'm terrified. And do y'all know Ava's heart rate? They was literally about to transport me from the bed I was on to the table to give me the C-section. Her heart rate jumped right back up. And it was like, oh, her heart rate's back up. She's fine. She can push. I was like, that was none but God, because he knew I was not ready for no C-section. After she was cleaned off, I was put back together. They finally brought her over, and I looked at my baby, and I just, like, all the pain, all the everything, the tiredness that I just experienced went away, and I was just like, wow, she's mine. I did it. We did it. She's here, and it's beautiful. I really thought, like, I could never imagine myself pushing out a baby until I did. And I was just like, wow, I did that. Like, wow. So, yeah.
Let's start. So like I said, like I worked all the way up. Till I took where it would be the week before my due date. So that week came, I left work, and I'm like, okay, because a lot of times people are like, I'll have my baby early, like or da da da. So I'm like, I was really expecting to have him early. I don't know why, but I think at that point I was just done with the whole pregnancy thing because I was like out here. It was just a lot. So I was like, I'm ready to have this baby. So his due date was August 10th. I didn't have him until August 12th. But August 10th came, and I was exercise. I was just doing things and activities to get me to start labor. So I was like, I took castor oil. I think that's like a thing.
Wow,
I took that.
too.
I actually, it was hot. It was very hot that day. But I went to a track and I just walked around track. I just kept walking around. I walked this baby out, and I was like doing that for like probably 30, 40 minutes on the track. I was doing like the Beyonce kicks. I was just doing a lot to get this baby come out. Baby didn't come out. I was on the phone with my best friend complaining like, girl, like this baby's not coming. And she was like, watch, this baby gonna come today. I'm like, okay. And it was like 11 or maybe 10. I got in the shower. Soon I got out the shower. It was like how you said, but you had like back pain. It just, it was like, hard. It was like, I'm like, oh no, like it where I had to like sit down, and I'm like, okay, like maybe I don't know, something's happening, and then it kept going, and I'm like, grab your bag, let's go. And I told him to pack his bag like 3 weeks ago. Like, make sure you have your stuff, because when it's time to go, I'm not going to sit around and wait for you. I'm probably drive myself. So he got his stuff together. We went to the hospital. Mine was late. And they hooked me up on the monitor. Well, actually, before that, they were like, are you sure? I'm like, yes. They're like, I was supposed to be here 2 days ago. But, he finally was here, so he hooked me up. I was having them, but I wasn't that dilated. So for me, in my experience, they called my OG, which is my doctor, and they're like, well, just have her there and keep her monitored, and if nothing happens, send her home. I was like, no, I don't want to go home. So I waited around for a long time, and then I actually took something that was called Pitocin to actually get it going. So Pitocin just basically starts to open up your cervix, which you got to be, I think, at a certain point. I didn't get past like 5 or something. I was just stuck. So they gave me the Pitocin, and shortly after that, I started feeling it. For me, I know going through it, like, I was okay with having an epidural. So the doctor came in, I had my epidural, everything was fine until like the very end. He every time I had a contraction, his heart rate dropped. So that happened a couple times, and they had to actually like flip me over on all fours to get his heart rate, because he just stopped breathing at a certain point. So that was like very scary to me, because at this point I'm like, we made it. We're about to have a baby, and the thought of losing my baby right when I have my baby like just freaked me out. So I went through all the emotions and stuff like that. And when it stopped, I pushed for 2 hours. I pushed for 2 hours, and at this point, I went in hospital at 11. I was pushing. It was like around 3, 4 the next day, and I was pushing. Nothing happened, but then it started happening again when he couldn't breathe, and they were just like, well, we think it's best for you to have a C-section. Mm-hmm. So I had to have an emergency cesarean C-section, and the scariest part was that I wasn't even expecting was the doctor came to me and said, like, well, sometimes there are complications, and you have to choose between you or your child, because we need to know what to do just in case something happened. And that was just something I wasn't really prepared to even think about. Like, and I'm looking at her like, why would you ask me that? Like, save my baby. And they're like, no, well, like, we feel like the mom is important. And I was just, I'm like crying, about to start crying now, because that was just something like, I'm giving life to this child, like, and it was a hard experience for me. And then surgery in general. So we got prepared for surgery, and I had a good bond with my doctor. She was my doctor 2 years before I got pregnant. So went in the back, and he was here. Like, he didn't make a noise. It went really smooth. And when they brought him around, literally, as they were walking, he started crying. And then soon they put him on my chest, he just stopped crying. And that's when I started crying. And I was just like, wow, this is a real experience. And just to rewind back, before, when I was pushing, it literally felt like my hip broke. When the contractions got that bad, I literally felt like my hip fell off. I was like, yo, I just dislocated it. But that's basically my birthing story.
My labor and my birth, okay. I had to be induced because my baby did not want to come. Mind you, he was huge, because when I had him, he was 9 pounds, 13 ounces, and I believe he was 23 inches long. So he did not want to come out, so I had to be induced. I went in Sunday night, started the induction process. Midday Monday, I still hadn't went into labor. So they had to start over. They let me take a shower, eat, and then we started the process over. Then I finally went into labor Tuesday morning. Then I was finally able to get an epidural because I was a punk. Nope, the contractions started hitting, and they weren't even like on my own labor contractions. They were like labor that was forced on me contractions, so it was terrible. I only dilated 4 centimeters after 12 hours of being in active labor. Ended up having to have a C-section. The recovery was trash, but it was worth it, so.
Okay, my birth story, for me, same thing with you. Like, I don't think they like that walking, because that I feel like when they feel us walk, they'll just postpone their own birth. So I think the day, it was my mom's birthday. Her birthday is October 15th. So we were just walking an entire trail. And after we walked that trail, I really felt like I was going to have this baby. I'm like, yeah, I shouldn't have did that. He's coming tonight. My next appointment was the following day. I went in, took my blood pressure. She said, oh, I don't like that, so let's take it again. She took it again, and it was even higher, but I feel like that was her fault. You're not supposed to do it right after. You're supposed to wait a few minutes.
Yeah.
So she was like, oh. So she spoke to my OB, and my OB came in. She's like, hi, guys. How are you? Are your bags packed? And we were like, oh, yeah, we're ready. She was like, good, because you're going in today. I was like, wait, what? Like, my heart was racing, and I was like, oh, I know I'm prepared, but I'm not prepared right now. And I told her, like, well, since my blood pressure is high, I have to be hooked up to an IV, so can I still do water labor? Because that was my plan. I wanted to do a water birth. So she said I could still do it. And we went into the room, and they actually checked to see if I was dilated. I wasn't dilated at all. Not a single centimeter, no effacement, like, nothing. So we went in, and they gave me a Cytotec, and they told me they would check on me in 2 hours. So after I took the Cytotec, I literally felt like I had, like, period cramps. Like, it was hurting so bad, but I didn't say anything. I just went to sleep. I woke up. They checked me again. No type of progress, so they gave me another Cytotec. The Cytotec only took me to, like, 1.5 centimeters. And it's crazy that I was prepared for everything from pregnancy to birth, but I wasn't prepared for them checking my dilation. So it was so hard for them to check because it was so uncomfortable, it was so painful. Like, everybody was, like, some people were heavy-handed, some weren't. So it was really hard for me. My water never broke. Actually, they had to break my water, so they had to put a catheter in me. I wasn't prepared for that. And my reaction to that was really bad. Like, they thought I was going to have a seizure because my reaction was so bad. I was crying. I was shaking. I couldn't get up. I wanted to go home. The catheter brought me to, like, 4.5 centimeters. So I think an hour later, after taking the catheter, my water just broke on my bed. Afterward, after your water breaks, you can't be in labor for too long or you're going to have a C-section. And they knew how bad I wanted to do natural birth, so they literally tried everything, like, under the sun. They even, to the point where they even went to the medical doctor and asked them to ask what should they do. I was on a birthing ball. They gave me, like, a little peanut ball. I think that's what it's called. They turned me sideways. They, like, had me stand up, walk around. Like, we did everything that we could. So they even tried to prolong it a little more than what made them comfortable. They were like, okay, we're going to give you a few more hours. Hopefully something happens, and if not, you may have to have a C-section. So at this point, it was October 18th, about 1 in the morning, and I said, okay, that's fine. I understand that things change. It really hurt my feelings, but I had to understand that things don't go as planned when you're pregnant. So at like 2 in the morning, they made the decision to give me an emergency C-section. And it was, I think it got so bad as far as, like, the catheter and stuff like that, like a bunch of things that was really alienated to me, to the point where I didn't even care if I got the C-section. I was like, you know what, I'm so over it. I want to go home. Like, just get me out of here. So I said, okay. So we undergo the procedure, and I was, nervous because there were, like, little resident nurses. And I was like, oh my God, please do not let these students practice on me. And he was like, I could just hear them. He's like, you're going to cut here. I'm like, what? Like, no, give me a real surgeon. So I'm just laying there. I didn't feel a few things. They told me that I was going to feel pressure, but they made it certain that it wasn't going to hurt. I was like, okay, pressure, no pain. Pressure, no pain. So I laid there. And I think when they got to the 7th layer of skin, I was like, it hurts. I feel something. They were like, no, you don't. And I could feel them tugging on me. Like, I was like, no, it hurts. Like, please stop. Like, am I dying? Am I dying? So my doctor, she went over me. She was like, no, you're okay. So after that, they took the baby out. They were like, baby's out. The first thing I said was, I feel so much lighter. And I turned over, and his dad is crying. He's like, Juanita, he's here. And he started crying. But one thing that I just really don't like is that I never got to hold him. So I don't want it to make me cry, but his dad got to hold him. They did the skin to skin, and I'm glad that he was so quick to do it. But I never got to hold him. I never got my first feel of him. I think they started to sew me up as soon as he was out. So I don't know if I was losing a lot of blood or whatever the case was. Afterwards, I saw him maybe 15 minutes after they took him out, and my reaction to the surgery was just so bad. Like, I thought I was not gonna make it. Like, I felt like I was having a seizure. I needed water. They couldn't really give me water, but the man, he gave me ice anyway because, like, my reaction was so bad. Like, the aftermath of it was so bad. So I think his dad was nervous, and they were feeding him, and he kept crying, and they tried to, like, console him, and he wouldn't stop crying until I said something, and Prince turned his head so fast, and I think it's because it was his first time hearing my voice since he came out. And I said, I'm here, little baby, or whatever. And after that, yeah, the pain of, like, the recovery of a C-section was just really terrible. Like, I would really not want that again.
How was the labor/birth? My first kid, it was terrible. I was in labor for 36 hours. After 32 hours was when I finally got an epidural. And my water didn't break. They had to break my water for me. I was literally doing everything to have a kid. I was walking. I was yoga balling. I was just doing anything. Anything Google said I needed to do, I was trying to do to drop that kid. I was 39 weeks pregnant. And I was just over being pregnant. Like, I was like having bad contractions too. But every time they kept sending me home saying it was Braxton Hicks. It was Braxton Hicks because when the real deal came, I felt it for sure. But it was just the worst pain I ever felt in my life. I wasn't expecting that. Like, the pain alone was like, it had me shook. And I had her naturally. I didn't split, I didn't cut, I didn't anything. I just pushed her right out. Then the labor/birth for my second kid, it was scary. I was scared. I was scared to death. Which then, my water broke this time around. Which was a good thing. Did the normal stuff. I went to the hospital. They didn't send me home because my water had broke, so that was a good thing. But I was like, maybe 10 hours in, and then they realized that the baby was turned the wrong way. She had turned the wrong way, and she was under stress. I guess because I was under stress because I was in so much pain. I'd never been in that much pain. Like, it was worse with the second kid than it was the first kid, and she was stressed, so her heart rate was dropping. Her breathing was going bad, I think.
So, I think I'm going to start when my water broke. So, I was just sitting in a rocking chair in my living room, just going back and forth. And I started having Braxton Hicks, which is why I couldn't sleep. So, that's why I was sitting in the rocking chair. So I was having the Braxton Hicks. Well, I thought they were Braxton Hicks, but I guess I was starting to go into labor. But they didn't hurt. But it was just, it was just getting really tight, and they were coming like every 2 to 3 minutes.
Oh, that's
so around 1:30, I heard like a tear, and then I felt like a gush of water.
Not a pop, but a tear.
Yeah, a tear. I was like. When you hear about people, like, their water is breaking, like, I'm expecting, like, a pop.
Yeah.
But no. I went to the bathroom, and then there was more water. I felt like I was peeing. I wasn't peeing. There was just more water, so I called my midwife, and she told me I could stay at home for a while. But about 5 minutes after I hung up the phone, then the contractions started coming like this, and I started feeling, like, a lot of pressure. But then again, I was doing a lot of walking around because I was making sure I had his bag, double checking I had all my stuff. I had his bag packed, and my bag packed like months before he was due. But I was just double checking I had everything, and I ended up going to the hospital like a half an hour after my water broke. I got to the hospital. They got me all checked in. And as soon as I laid down, my contractions, they just slowed up. Just immediately, they slowed up. So they ended up starting me on Pitocin, a synthetic oxytocin, which promotes
It's
the
like
contractions.
Yeah. Oh, does it? I thought it was like a pain reliever.
That's
Yeah.
what I had to take.
Yeah, the Pitocin like makes the contractions come faster and
Oh,
more
you're
intense.
right, because they gave me oxytocin.
It kind of jump started.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
So they did the Pitocin. My contractions started back up, but then again, they had me laying down because I guess the Pitocin made you dizzy. And on top of that, it made me very, very nauseous. So I was throwing up on top of having the contractions. And you know when you throw up and your abdomen, contracts. Yeah, it tightens up. So that was just making everything bad. So they ended up giving me some nausea medicine. They gave me 2 different nausea medicines. Neither of them worked. And then actually that night when I went into labor, I took the castor oil.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, they would not let me get up. They would not let me get up to walk around. And I wanted to walk around so bad because that's what was making them come fast, like when I was at home. Because I was up, walking around, doing stuff. And they made me lay down, which I did not like at all. And then it had to have been like 3 hours after I got to the hospital. They checked my cervix, which, like you said, it hurt so bad. I was not expecting that.
Yeah.
I was not expecting for it to hurt that bad. Yeah. They checked my cervix, and I was only dilated to 1 centimeter.
All of that, and you were
Yeah.
only dilated to 1
I was
centimeter?
only dilated to 1 centimeter. So then they ended up putting a balloon up, and they put it up near your cervix, and they inflate it so your cervix can thin out.
I'm sorry, but that just sounds horrible.
Yeah, so it can
It is
thin out.
horrible.
Yeah, it hurts
It's
so
so bad.
You had it?
Did you get up? Like, were you able to get up? I got up right after, and it was taped to my leg.
They told me I could get up, but I don't think I did. Because as soon as they put it in, I'm like, it's falling out. Like, it's falling out. Like, put it back in. It's falling out. So like, it was like 20 minutes after that, and it actually came out. Like I was telling you guys, it was coming out, and it came out. They checked me again. I was like 5.5 centimeters. So it did its thing, but it just it did its thing, but it hurt. And like I said, it worked fast because it was falling out literally.
Oh no, I made them take mine out.
Yeah.
It's not me now.
Yeah, it
Snatched it out.
hurt bad. By that time, I hadn't had my epidural yet. I ended up having my epidural really late, like right when I was transitioning almost. When I got my epidural, and you have to lay like this.
Oh
And
yeah.
you have to sit forward while you're having contractions, and they tell you not to move, like whatsoever. The epidural actually didn't work, like I was telling you guys. It did not work. So I was just sitting there in so much pain. I felt so much pressure. You feel it like down in your like butt area.
Yes.
Yeah, I felt so much pressure, and I just I got so upset because I knew like they put the epidural too low or something because it just numbed my legs, which was messed up because it missed all the parts I needed to be numb. So I made them come in and check me, and they said I was at 10 centimeters. So they were like, okay, we're gonna go call your midwife. Like nobody was around when this happened. So I'm sitting there with one of the nurses, like, and I was pushing. She was like, no, stop pushing.
Like, no.
I'm like, no, I need to push. Like I grabbed both of my legs by myself and I started pushing.
Wow.
Like I could not wait. I was in so much pain, and the pushing, it almost like relieved some of the pain or some of the pressure that I felt. I only pushed for like a half hour. I know you said you pushed for like 2 hours. Yeah. So I only pushed for like a half hour. And then when his head came out, there was a shoulder dystocia, so his shoulder got stuck on my hip when I was pushing him out after his head came out.
His shoulder got stuck?
His shoulder got stuck. So there was like 5 nurses on top of me pushing on my belly while I was pushing. And they were on me for a good like 2 minutes, just like pushing on my stomach. Like while I was pushing, while I was having a contraction, pushing on my stomach. But he came out and they put him right on my chest. His dad cut his umbilical cord and they put him right on my chest. But he wasn't crying or he wasn't breathing or doing anything like that. He was blue. So me and the nurse were rubbing his back to try to get him to start crying. He didn't start crying, so they ended up taking him away from me. And then like 30 seconds later, he started crying. And then everybody else in the room started crying. My parents started crying. His dad started crying. His mom started crying. I started crying because everybody else was crying. But I was just thankful this baby was out. I wasn't even like crying about him, to be honest. I was just so thankful that he was out. I was so thankful that he was out.
How was labor and birth? My first pregnancy, I had just relocated from Dallas to Detroit. I was 8 months pregnant. I had to find a doctor online. It was terrible. I had an emergency C-section after a failed induction. They wanted me to do a C-section beforehand anyway because he was supposed to be 9 pounds. He was 8'1". People push out 9-pound babies all the time though. So my first labor and delivery was terrible because they wound up putting me to sleep. I woke up without a baby and I couldn't see him for the first 24 hours. I couldn't see him for the first 24 hours because I had a fever, and that was their policy to make sure that I didn't have an infection. The second labor and delivery, it was awesome. Everything. I had a VBAC. I was very, very, very happy with my results. My doctor, she encouraged me because I was ready to give up. The contractions got real. But labor and delivery, the second time, I pushed out an 8.11 pound baby. So it was awesome to be able to do that. It felt like a strength renewed because I do feel like my body failed me, or I failed myself for not being knowledgeable about the labor and delivery process and the way these doctors push people. I know so many people with C-sections that shouldn't have gotten a C-section. It's like an epidemic. They're just trying to cut people open. So first time was terrible. Second time was awesome. And now we're here. Can you say hi? Hi.
I did struggle with postpartum. My son will be 9 months on the 26th of November, and I still kind of struggle with it a little bit. Postpartum took a big toll on me and my relationship. I can't actually lie. The first month or two were the hardest. I found myself literally crying for no reason, I guess you could say. I didn't eat for like the first 2 weeks, and that took a toll on me trying to breastfeed, because if you don't eat, you can't produce milk. And then my baby is a big baby, so he ate a lot anyway from the beginning. So breastfeeding was hard for me. I only did it for 4 weeks because my milk just didn't really come. But that was one of the downsides of postpartum. I went to see a counselor or a therapist. It helped a little bit, but I kind of strayed away from it. I would suggest doing that continually, but postpartum did take a toll on me. And it happens to the best of us. I can't lie. It's just I'm still working through it, and I pray a lot, so that helps.
So, postpartum for me, I don't really know, like, I just knew it was a certain turning point for me. I think, so I stayed home for 4 months after I had my baby from work. So I was just in the house constantly. I remember when I did go out sometimes, I felt like an alien. So I was like, wow, this is a whole new world. Like, I was in the house so much doing my routine, like lack of sleep, just, and breastfeeding on its own because it just drains your body so much. I thought it was fine though. Like for like 0 to like 6 months, I thought I was like fine, but I started low key starting to like forget to do things and just really stupid little things. And then I would just remember all I wanted to do was just sleep every day. Like I wanted to come home. I didn't want to be bothered with the baby like at all. I don't know. It was just for me like one day I was on and the next day I just remember it being so different. And then I didn't really think about it. I didn't even realize what I was going through at first until my doctor asked me. Like, so how do you feel about this and this? And she was asking questions related to the baby. And it was just like so nonchalant. She was like, well, I can see like something changed because every time I come and see her, I'll just be so happy and da da da. And then it just literally switched. And for me, I think it was just stress coming from just being a new mom and not realizing like how much energy you had. I still go through spells of depression anyway. Like before I had pregnant, I actually do suffer from um, like anxiety really bad.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that can trigger me into going into depression. So I knew that like what I was feeling was something familiar, just on a different level though, because I would say like this is the real like I don't say hard for me to say, but there was times where I had like ideations like of me doing something to him. Like I used to live downtown, so I stayed like right by Belle Isle. One night I was like so just out of it. I was just like, I'm gonna go and just basically I'm just jump off like the thing, and that's how bad it got at a certain point. And at that point, I knew I had to talk to somebody. I called someone that's close to me that have like experience in counseling and stuff like that. And I talked to them and I worked my way through that. But that was so scary for me because I was like, how can I ever think about doing that? Like, why would I ever think about doing that?
And you don't even know if you were really going to act on it or not.
And it was scary.
Yeah.
It was like so freaky to me. Like, and being a mom is stressful. It's not easy. Like we work our way through it and we do what we gotta do. We put so much on our back and then you mentally messed up on top of that. You physically tired and then your mental is just on a whole nother level. So like I would say like I'm currently looking for a therapist because now I would say I still go through episodes of postpartum and then I'm dealing with co-parenting and learning how to do that, and then on top of just life stressors in general, like it's a lot to sometimes deal with it by yourself. And I think that's the worst thing to do is to deal with it by yourself because having a person that's non-biased that you can talk to help you through and work your way through and create an actual plan is better than just like I would say like you got your girls or whoever you vent to, but like you need somebody that maybe can help you give you a little structure on when you starting to feel this type of way. These are the things you need to do to maybe help you get back on track. Because it might be a whole week you don't realize that you was just on a whole other level, and until you look back and step back like, wow, I was like not there. I was not like mentally you're not there. Like you can go in a whole robotic mode and you don't even know. So I would say like for me it was spotty here or there, and then I had to read up on it and like wow, I actually suffered through it because I didn't know what I was going through. I just was like, I'm stressed out. I'm fine. I'll be fine. Like no. So that's for me. I would say for real. Like I didn't know what was going on with me. I just thought this was just a normal type of thing. But like I said, it didn't happen until I actually had like ideations of me harming myself or my baby. And that's why I was just like, yeah, that's a whole nother thing. I haven't been like that in a long time as far as like with AJ. So I'm happy that I actually was able to work through it because it was scary and it happens to a lot of people.
How postpartum affected me. First pregnancy, I didn't have any problems. You get the little insecurities in the beginning because of your weight gain, but it wasn't that this time. Postpartum affected me during my pregnancy, this past pregnancy, and I started to see a therapist during my pregnancy for anxiety. And it's been an up and down roller coaster since I've given birth with my postpartum. Some days are good, some days are bad. The depression does seep in some days. And it's crazy because I've never had these feelings before, but I go to therapy. I'm trying to work on it.
Mine was really hard to notice because I know, like, I had my moments where I was so snappy about stuff, and that sometimes people just get on my nerves easily. So, when did I begin to notice? I noticed maybe a month after, but they already told me about, like, the precautions and stuff, and I'm like, in the back of my mind, after I read about postpartum depression, I was like, oh, I got this. Like, I'm a strong person. Like, people look up to me, so I know I got this if people look up to me. So that was my problem. My problem was people's perception of me, but it wasn't even my perception of myself. Little did I know. So I'm like, since people think I'm strong, I know I'm strong, whatever. So I remember, I think I actually noticed it one time when we were supposed to have a doctor's appointment, and I think that his dad got off late or something, and I was just so upset. So I was calling the doctor like, oh yeah, we're gonna, you know, if they say like if you're like 15, 20 minutes late, the appointment is canceled. I'm like, okay, we're on the way, we're in traffic, and there's really heavy traffic right now, so it's gonna be a little prolonged. Is that okay? And they were like, yeah, it's fine. Just don't be at least 25 minutes late. So she like helped me with a little 5-minute grace period or whatever. So I think once he got home, he had forgot something. We had a conversation. He said he forgot something, and it just pissed me off so bad. So when he got home, I could tell we weren't going anymore, and I was so upset. But it was like, was I really upset about going? Like, was I really upset about the appointments? Because we were always on top of his appointments. Or was it I just needed to get out of the house? Because mind you, I still had him. I had the baby or whatever. I'm like, maybe I just need to get out of the house. Because I was, like, so prepared to go. I was so ready to go. And it was hard for me to, like, really look back and see what the source was of my anger and what really triggered it. So, as always, with all of my situations, I just blew it off or whatever. And then at one point, I think we had like another disagreement, and I was just so angry for some reason. Like, I don't even know what was triggering my anger, but I was so angry, and I was just letting my emotions make my decisions for whether it was what I say or how I feel. So I think I went to my mom's house for a few days, and I just got really sick, and couldn't really get up, and I was just emotionally drained, and I was like, I think I'm going through postpartum depression. But the thing about depression is people think that you're just sad all the time and crying, when you can really be angry. It's different ways to be depressed, and you don't notice it because you think, oh, I'm just mad. But if you're constantly mad about nothing and you turn every little situation into something big, you just really have to look back on it and just consider maybe you are depressed. So I went to my doctor, and it was so funny because I was so embarrassed because I was so big on being a strong person, and yet I know she understands postpartum depression. I was like, yeah, maybe I'm depressed a little bit. I don't know. Knowing good and well I was. So she was like, you know what, we'll have you take a test. And I took the test, and my results were pretty high for what she said. So she recommended a counselor, and she gave me the contact number, everything, and I was supposed to follow up with her maybe within 2 weeks to see how I was doing. I think I had one good day, and I never went to that counselor, because that's the tricky thing about depression. It doesn't have to be constant. You can have you can have this really bad phase, and the next day can be so amazing that you forget completely about your depression. So I think I had a really good week, and I was like, oh, it's over. There's no point. I'm just not going to follow up with my doctor, and I'm not going to follow up with my counselor, and I'm just going to let it go. So, following a few months after, it came back, and it came back darker, and I was also going through a phase of anxiety. So, you know, your anxiety just raises your depression or whatever you go through, and everything you go through, you pretty much exaggerate it. So you have these thoughts, and my thoughts fight each other daily, whether it's with simple decisions and I'm being indecisive, or it's just anger, and one thought is telling me to let it go and it's not that serious, and the other thought is telling me, no, you're just tired, you need to let everybody know how you feel, everybody needs to know you're not playing, and stuff like that. So Yeah, depression was very, very hard for me. I actually still go through it. I had I shared with someone maybe last week or a few weeks ago that I had this episode that same day. Actually, last week when we were filming, literally 15 minutes before I broke down crying for no apparent reason. So, his dad was asking me, he was like, have you been crying? I was like, yeah, I have. And he was like, what's wrong? I was like, I don't know. He's like, so you're just crying? I was like, yeah, I just been crying lately. And right after I said that, I started crying. So I was just stressed about so much as being a mom and feeling like you don't have the help that you need or the help that you want, or things aren't going in your favor.
It weighs heavy on your heart.
It weighs heavy, and it's hard to deal with it because you don't want your child to feel that energy. So whatever energy you have going on, once you see your child, you put it away. So you're putting yourself second. You don't accommodate yourself anymore. You just make sure everything is right for your child, and you're just like, forget if I eat, forget if I sleep. As long as he's okay, I'm okay. But one thing my doctor shared with me is that if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of your child. Mm-hmm. So you still come first. I started forgetting to eat. So it resulted in me losing 4 pounds in less than a month. So I didn't care to eat anymore. I was losing appetite. His sleep schedule was changing and it was getting crazy. So every time I tried to put him to sleep and he didn't go to sleep, I got so angry to the point where I just said, you know what, it's whatever. If I don't get sleep, I don't get sleep. Who cares? Like, that's what's just going to happen, obviously. So the change in my life at the moment is what made me stressed. And I was also starting a new job, so I wanted to get on the right foot. I wanted to start fresh, but the feeling of not being able to start fresh because I wanted to start in my home first, and feeling like that was just going downhill just brought me down. So I felt like me starting school late caused my depression, just a lot of things, not getting everything on time and done in the manner that I wanted to. Uh-oh, you okay? Yeah? So that, it just really triggered a lot for me. And it was hard to admit because, like Tiara said, you have people to vent to, but everybody doesn't understand. Mm-hmm. Everybody doesn't give the right advice. And as far as me talking to people, I give the best advice, but I ask myself, why can I give advice, but I can't get it? Like, I can give advice, but I can't give myself advice. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what to do, but I'm so quick to help somebody else.
How did postpartum affect you? I would say it didn't hit me until, her father died, because I had that support system. I really wasn't experiencing any type of postpartum until something triggered it. And then it just was a whirlwind. Like, I was sad. I felt like I wasn't capable of being a good mom. I was, second guessing everything. I was afraid to sleep. I didn't sleep. And affected how I viewed myself as a mother, and in return acted as a mother, because I felt like I wasn't worthy, and that, reflecting on my behavior.
Like, I never got time alone. Mm-hmm. Like, ever. Like, I would cherish, like, the times where I could just take a 15-minute shower, like, just by myself, with nobody else.
Oh my God, yes.
And just be able to get dressed and, just have those little moments to myself, like. And at that time, I lived with his dad. And living with people is hard, because especially like when you just had a baby and you need that time, that space to yourself, and the other person doesn't understand that, mm-hmm. that gets hard, because you need a little bit of time for yourself. He was going to work and I wasn't. I would stay home all day with him, so he would get that time to himself.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
All day, and I would not. So he would, barge in the bathroom with me with the baby, and, you know, talk to me. And I would just kind of be like, yeah, like, I need this time to myself. And he doesn't like locked doors, so I would lock the door, and he'd be mad that I locked the door. But it's like, I need that.
Mm-hmm.
I need that, especially if I've been home all day. You know, he's been crying all day. You haven't even seen, like, what I've been doing all day. And I didn't sleep the night before because you had to sleep and you had to go to work and do all this. So it gets hard when, you know, you always have just this little baby just attached to you. So for me, and I didn't go out. I didn't do much of anything. And I was away from my parents because he lived like 45 minutes away from my parents. So I didn't get to see them often. And when I did, my mom would have to drive out there to come see us. And she was working. I would just cry all the time. Like, I didn't want him. On the weekends, he would go out every weekend. And I would just, like, you know, be at the house. And it's hard when you don't have any sleep, too. Like, that's one thing I can say about his dad. He did not understand it. He didn't understand it at all. He's like, you know, why are you acting like this? Like, why are you treating me like this? Like, there's reasons why I'm treating you like this. Like, I'm at home with the baby all day. Like, I need a minute to myself, like, where I can just do something without having to, like, worry or, like, have that anxiety. Like, I need that. Like, people need that.
Right.
It's not nothing out of the ordinary. People need that.
Right, like, help me out a bit. Like, I just need you to help me
it's
get space.
Because even like at work, because this is a job, you know, because I always say I got 2 jobs. Like, I work my regular job, and I'm a mom the whole other hours.
Right.
You need a break. You need a break. If it's a 30-minute break, 15-minute break, 10-minute break, and you got to take your breaks because that's what, like you were saying, you kind of store it away. Every time you get that anxiety, every time you feel that pain, you just store it away, and then it just flip left.
Yeah, it comes back hard.
It come back to you. Like, you think it's just like, oh, I'll let it go. But no, it'll come back, and then either or you will be really mad or you just break down.
Co-parenting has been a journey.
I do feel like I parent a little differently than my parents.
Okay, so my advice definitely is the research. Research really puts you at ease because